In some distilleries, there are distilled spirits, and then there are the other type of spirits, the supernatural kind. Take a trip with us to some of the most haunted distilleries in the world. Buffalo Trace Distillery, Frankfort, Kentucky. Crafting bourbon for over 2 centuries, this bourbon staple has had its fair share of paranormal activity and has even been featured on the TV show Ghost Hunters. It's unsurprising the distillery has since embraced its metaphysical friends and set up its own in-house ghost tour. A notable visitor is one of the distillery's former presidents, Colonel Albert B. Blanton, who died in his manor on the distillery grounds in 1959. Workers have reported hearing meetings in Blanton's old office, seeing lights on in the gift shop after closing time, hearing footsteps walking the halls, and even seeing an apparition of Blanton himself.
My name is Will Prible. I am a weekend and special events tour guide here at Buffalo Trace Distillery. I've been with Buffalo Trace Distillery since 2014. The history on this place goes back millennia, really. With all that history, of course, you have to believe there's a certain level to it that ends up sticking around. I'm actually sitting in the hallway where my story took place. We're inside Brick House D. D is a 1907 brick construction. It's compelling because it's such an old warehouse. Additionally, it's a time that I think was interesting leading up to Prohibition as well. Whether that impacted the spirits that may be in this building, I'm always hesitant, but this story is just so interesting that I have a hard time giving it any kind of reason beyond that. It was a Saturday about 2 p.m. and setting up to get a group of about 25 people inside. I had centered myself in the hallway here, waiting for people to gather around me so we could begin talking about the history of this building. And I happened to glance past my group and down this long, dark hallway to the other end of the ricks. That's when I noticed a man standing clear as day, facing the barrels that I had my back to. I was the first person in there, so for someone to have walked from my group all the way down to the end of the hallway without being noticed was an unusual thing out the chute. People work all the time during our touring, but what was odd to me was that he was just staring at the barrels, and I was like, how did the guy get down there so quickly? And as I went to say, "Excuse me, sir, can you come back down to the group?" he just took a step into the barrel. He just stepped forward. At that point, I was like, okay, that's odd, but not out of the realm of possibility, because as you see to my right here, there's little hallways between each of the ricks. What are called the leak hunters. They're on each side. The way the leak hunters would check for leaks in barrels was to use these little walkways between the ricks. And then my mind started thinking about the fact that a grown man cannot easily walk straight into the opening between the barrels. And as I thought about that, the lady to my right that would have had a good vantage point looking down this hallway said, "Did you see that?" And at that moment, I felt that I was not as crazy in my mind as I thought I was. So I told the group, I said, "Hold on, everybody, I'm going to go walk down here." And as I got further and further down, I was checking between each of the ricks and didn't see anybody. And there was certainly not enough time for someone to have run through these and out the other side. At that point, I told the group what I'd experienced, and they were all fascinated. A couple months later, I happened to see a photo of Albert Blanton, who would have been working as a supervisor here at the distillery in 1907. Albert Blanton, in what looked like our Dickie uniform. It was a cream-colored shirt and pants that you would wear in a factory. He grew up across the street. He came here working at 16 years old, and then was president of the distillery by 1921. When I saw a photo of him wearing Dickies, very similar to what I witnessed at the other end of the hallway, that was the first time I think my hair stood up on my arms. And it was at that point that I kind of started putting things together. I'm not saying I believe in ghosts or not, but I am saying that my experience was unusual and entirely possible that we are haunted in this structure. And I'm not alone, I don't think, in our experiences as a distillery. I think lots of folks that work here have similar stories of being in a building like the bottling hall and experiencing someone out of the corner of your eye walk through a room and into the next room, and when you go to check, they're not there. Hearing footsteps above your head, voices in an empty room, it's not unusual to have some kind of experience, I think, if you just give it time. No matter what the experiences are on the property, I don't think anyone can say that there's a negative feeling around any of the structures. The ghosts haven't been nefarious necessarily. Nothing bad has happened with our stories. It is still a spooky experience when it does happen. Even when I shut the light off at the end of the day, I still do not look down this hallway what's behind me on my way out of the building, just out of respect. I think just all in all, being on a property over 250 years old and as a farm and distillation, we're all going to certainly experience something. That's my story about Buffalo Trace and the ghosts that reside here, or at least ones that I've come in contact with.
To learn more about spirits in the bottle and maybe hear a couple of ghost stories, head on over to distiller.com or download the app on your mobile device.